Hare Krishna. We'd like to welcome all of you to today's live session. Um, it's an honor and pleasure to be with um, all of you here who are connecting on this live session. Um, this is the first time I am doing a live simultaneously on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So it's something interesting and new experience for me. But it's because it's such an auspicious day and a Diwali morning. It's very important and it's extremely crucial that we begin the day with the right consciousness and the right mood. So I thought I should do a live session to help you all prepare for the Diwali weekend ahead and help you all absorb in the right consciousness and the right mood of Diwali. So once again, we would like to welcome everyone who has joined us on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook today. And to all those who are going to be viewing and seeing this video much later during the day and tomorrow, I would like to wish all of you a very happy Diwali. So today I'll be speaking on the significance of Diwali and also the story behind Diwali. A lot of people know the story, but I'm going to speak it in such details and such depth that it will really change your perception of the story, and Diwali will seem more significant, more exciting, and more meaningful with this understanding and with this storyline. Interestingly, I just happened to be finishing the sixth volume of the Ramayana, the Game of Life series. For those who are wondering, when the sixth book is going to come, I'm happy and glad to inform that between Ram Navami and between Dashera and Diwali, this is the period in which I formally completed the Ramayana, the Game of Life, and submitted the manuscript, which essentially means that the last book of the Ramayana series and the completion of the Ramayana series will happen sometime 2021. But it's a monumental time for me personally because it's been 7 long years that I began the journey of writing the Ramayana, the Game of Life on January, somewhere in January 2013. And in 2020 now, towards the end, I'm completing the series. And because I just finished writing this section of the Ramayana, so it is fresh in my mind, and it is also so very relevant to this occasion of celebrating Diwali. So I thought I should do a live session and share some of the beautiful experiences and episodes in the Ramayana. I'll begin the story of Diwali by taking a little backwards in the storyline, and I'm taking you all to the section where the Ram Ravan war is happening, and Ram is without a chariot, and Ravan is descending down from his palace, which is on top of the Trikuta mountains. And as Ravan is descending down from the chariot with the chariot, and this chariot is such a huge chariot drawn by so many horses and a beautiful golden chariot, which is so huge and so spacious. And more than anything else, this chariot is filled with weapons, all kinds of weapons, and these weapons are so powerful and so potent. And Ravan is donning a golden armor with a beautiful crown on his head and a bow, a formidable bow in his hand, an amazing chariot driver who is very capable assisting him. And when Ravan is descending with this kind of a intense mood, Vibhishan asks Ram a question. Ram is on the ground. He doesn't have a chariot. He doesn't have a chariot driver. He doesn't have an armor. He doesn't even have enough weapons. He doesn't even have a footwear. So Vibhishan's question is, how are you going to fight against Ravan, who is having so much equipments and he is so well equipped? Ram gives a very amazing answer. Ram tells Vibhishan, who told you I'm not on a chariot? I am on a chariot. Um, And he says that this chariot on which I'm stationed is known as Dharma Ratha. I'm seated on the chariot of Dharma. And Ram tells Vibhishan that Dharma Ratha is being driven. Seated on this chariot of Dharma, and I'm wearing an armor, and the armor is of Sadguna or good qualities. I'm carrying a weapon, and the weapon is transcendental knowledge. And my chariot driver is sadhana or the process of devotional service. So he said, I'm very well equipped to fight against Ravan, who represents Durjan, who represents Anarthas, who represents vices. And then, exactly at that point in time, Indra appears, and Indra offers his celestial chariot to Ram. Beautiful golden chariot. Now, you may wonder, this is the last day of the war. The war is almost over. And when the war is almost over, what's the point in giving a chariot at that point in time? Ram doesn't need a chariot now, technically, and he's telling Vibhishan, I don't need a chariot. And suddenly Indra comes over here and gives him a chariot. So we may wonder, why did Indra do that? Why did he not give the chariot on the first day of the war? The war lasted for 7 days, and this is the seventh day, and that too the last fight literally. And here is Indra coming and giving him a chariot. So there are three reasons why Indra did not give a chariot to Ram in the beginning. The first reason is because Indra was not sure who will win the war. He was not sure whether Ram will win or Ravan will win. And his point was, if Ram won, it's great. But if he gives a chariot and Ravan wins, then he's in big trouble. And therefore, Indra didn't want to take a risk. Didn't want to take a risk of, giving Ram a chariot and being on the side of Ram and incurring the wrath of Ravan. And the second reason was God is Aptakam. Aptakam means he's self-satisfied. He doesn't need anything from us. He doesn't need anything from any of us. But at the same time, when we feel we should give, that's the time we should give. So it doesn't mean, so when we give anything to God, it doesn't mean that God actually needs it. He can do without whatever we give him. But when we give him, it should be from our heart. And the understanding is, to win against Ravan, only your piety is not enough. Indra represents punya. Punya is piety. So to win against Ravan, only being pious is not enough. So Indra has a lot of piety. But when we offer our piety to God, that's when we can win against enemies like Ravan. So a lot of people feel I'm pious. So why do I need God in my life? You may be pious, but that's not enough to win against vices. To win against vices, you have to offer your piety to God. So Indra offered his chariot to Ram, and that's when Indra was able to win against Ravan. Technically, Ravan fought many wars against Indra, and Indra lost every war. Every single war that Ravan fought with Indra, Indra lost. So Punya, when it fights against vices on its own, it will always lose. But when Punya is offered to God and then the fight happens, definitely it wins. And that's what the significance of Indra giving the chariot to Ram indicates. So Ravan, when he fought against Ram, the first war, it was such a massive war, such a massive fight that practically the whole army, all of Ravan's army, all of Ram's army, all the Vanaras just dropped their weapons, sat down, and they were watching the war. Just like the whole of India, at some point in time when Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana was being telecasted, everyone just stopped doing everything and just focused on watching the Ramayana. Even now, during the lockdown when Ramayana happened, practically the whole of India was watching. It became the highest seen television serial in the history of the world. Imagine what kind of power Ramayana has even today, And it even beat the Game of Thrones. Can you imagine the number of viewers that were there for the Ramayana, the Game of Life, Ramayana, the Ramayana serial of Ramanand Sagar, And so when Ram Ravan war was happening, everyone just stopped and they were just watching the war. The first time Ram fought against Ravan, the fight was so intense that practically Ravan fell unconscious. So when Ravan fell unconscious, Ravan's chariot driver, he took him away. He took away the chariot very far near a river, parked the chariot there, and he was taking care of his master, Ravan. So when Ravan got conscious after some time, he really got angry. He began to shout at his chariot driver. He began to abuse him. Began to give him all kinds of bad words. And the chariot driver was so upset. Imagine he was trying to do good to his master. He'd saved the life of Ravan. And in spite of saving the life of Ravan, what does he get in return? He just gets galis. He just gets bad words. He just gets abused. So the chariot driver tells Ravan, come on, I was only trying to help you. I was trying to save your life. So when Ravan, and then the chariot driver explained, if I had not done that, the monkeys had jumped on a chariot and they were pulling your body away. They would have killed you. And then that's when Ravan understood the context of the whole problem, And then he became a little peaceful. He obviously didn't ask forgiveness, but he just kept quiet. And he said, "Take me back to the war." In the meanwhile, while this was happening between Ravan and his chariot driver, in the battlefield, Ram and his army, the Vanara army, experienced something special. Suddenly, just out of nowhere, appeared the great Agastya Rishi. Agastya was such a powerful sage whom Ram had met many, many years back. And Agastya was the one who gave Ram the bow that he's using right now in the war. And Agastya gave Ram a mantra, which is known as the Aditya Hridaya mantra. It is a sun invocation. And Agastya explained that you are exhausted after so many days of war. Ravan is completely fresh. But if you chant this Agastya, this Aditya Hridaya mantra, your energy will get renewed and your mind will be fresh. And then Agastya disappeared. Ram instantly invoked the presence of the sun god and the power of the sun by chanting the Aditya Hridaya mantra. It is explained the Aditya Hridaya mantra is so very important for mental health. Aditya Hridaya mantra is so very important for being enthusiastic in life. It's recommended by Agastya to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram actually chanted it. And then by that time, Ravan came back. And this time, Ravan was intensely, enthusiastic and re-energized to fight. Ram tells Matali, the driver of Indra, now that he has a chariot, he's boarded the chariot, and he tells the driver of Indra, please take me to where Ravan is and make sure that you are very conscious and you are very careful when you approach Ravan. And then 1 second later, Ram suddenly changes his mood and he says, I'm sorry, I advised you. I know that you are an expert and I should not have advised you. I'm sorry for that. Imagine Matali really feels touched when Ram says that. So look at the difference between the way Ram deals with his driver, Ravan deals with his driver, and the way Ram deals with Matali. There is a lot of respect when Ram is dealing with Matali. When when Ravan is dealing with his driver, there is utter disrespect. And here is the difference between a leader who is sensitive and a leader who is selfish. A leader is sensitive, is so sensitive to the needs, interests, and concerns of people that he leads. And he's so sensitive to the feelings of people that he leads. And a leader that is insensitive is hardly bothered. So when Ravan comes and the fight begins, this time Ram begins to intensely fight. He begins to chop off different arms of Ravan. He begins to chop off the heads of Ravan. And interestingly, every time Ram chops off a head, the head appears again. Every time he lops off a hand, the arms appear again. Ram is really confused. He doesn't know what is happening. And he's just so confused that again and again these arms are coming up, again and again heads are coming up. And it is explained that at some point in time, Ravan's limbs were all over the battlefield. There were so many heads on the floor. Just imagine the scene, so many heads of Ravan on the floor of the battlefield. So it's not just that the 10 heads that were there on his head, but rather these heads were manifesting again and again and again. So very soon there were hundreds of heads on the floor, and there were hundreds of arms of Ravan on the floor. And this was completely bewildering to the monkeys. Even the demons, even the Rakshasas were so confused and bewildered. They didn't understand how Ravan is doing that. They had never seen anything like this in their lives. And that is when Vibhishan stepped in, when he saw Ram's confusion. Vibhishan stepped in and explained to Ram that there is a way of dealing with Ravan. He explained that Ravan cannot be killed like this. There's a secret that only very few people, even within the family, know. And Vibhishan revealed the secret of something known as a Brahma Ban. He explained that Brahma had given Ravan an arrow, and he explained only this arrow, if used and it is shot right at the navel of Ravan, where there's a nectar stored, can Ravan die? And Vibhishan said, "There's only one person in the entire world that knows where that Brahma Ban is kept. Even Ravan doesn't know where it is kept. He gave it to Mandodari, his wife, and she has kept it in a secret place." And so Vibhishan said, if someone can get the Brahma Ban, then Ravan can die. Instantly, Hanumanji jumped in. He said, "Let me try." And Ram said, "Do whatever you need to do, but get the Brahma Ban." So Hanumanji ran, and he ran towards Lanka. And the interesting thing is, as Hanumanji ran towards Lanka, his disguise, his form changed instantly. When he entered into the city of Lanka, he was disguised in the form of an elderly astrologer, Rakshasa astrologer. And Hanuman took this amazing form that no one could ever make out that it was Hanuman. And interestingly, Hanuman disguised himself as this elderly astrologer, very scholarly looking, and his gada, his mace, became his astrological treatise that he was carrying under his arms. And he was wobbling in Lanka, chanting the name of Ravan, you know, Jai Ravan, like that. And all the people of Lanka, when they saw this elderly astrologer walking on the streets of Lanka, they became very inquisitive. They began to talk to him. They began to share. Astrologers are very famous. People love astrologers because they want to know what's waiting for them. They want to know what future holds for them. And here was a seemingly scholarly astrologer, and Hanumanji was too good in whatever he did. So many of the citizens of Lanka began to come and talk to them, show them their hands, and ask them what destiny is holding for them, because everyone is worried what is going to happen to Lanka and the future of Lanka. Hanumanji, he expertly dealt with all of them, and he convinced all of them that he knew so much more. And slowly the news began to reach the palace, and it reached Mandodari. And Mandodari called for this astrologer, and she asked him, for details. When she saw his devotion to Ravan, when she saw that he was such a scholar, when she saw that he was so detached, Mandodari began to trust him a lot. And Hanumanji, he spoke the exact words that Mandodari needed to hear. And then Hanuman got up and he was leaving. And as he was leaving, he just turned behind and asked her, "Are you sure that you have kept it safely?" So Mandodari didn't know what he meant. So she asked. So he re-emphasized his words. He said, "Are you sure you have kept that secret safely?" So Mandodari was shocked. She didn't know how he could know about that secret, and she was not even sure whether he was talking about that secret that she is thinking of. And then Hanumanji says, "See, there is nothing that I don't know. Just tell me, are you sure? Because today's time, nothing is secure enough. So if you're not really sure of security, please do something about it." And then Mandodari really got bewildered, confused, and she didn't know what to say. And she suddenly, decided to trust him. She said, "No, no, it's safe. There is nobody else who knows. that arrow is inside this pillar. And the moment she said that, Hanumanji just jumped, broke open the pillar, grabbed the arrow, and jumped out, shouted, "Jai Shri Ram!" And Hanumanji straight landed in Lanka, in the war scene, and he gave that arrow to Lord Ram. Ram fixed the arrow on his bow, and he shot it at the navel of Ravan, and that was the end of Ravan. Instantly, Ravan fell. The nectar in his navel was dried up, and he collapsed, fell dead. There are many lessons that you can learn from the head cutting story of Ravan. The first thing is the 10 heads of Ravan represents the 10 intelligences. And it is explained that when Ravan went to kidnap Sita, uh, he asked his 10 heads, "What do you think?" He asked them opinions basically. And each head gave their opinion. 9 out of the 10 heads told him, "Don't do it." But his own original head, the 10th one, it said, "Do it." And Ravan was so stubborn that he listened to only his own 10th original head, and he went ahead and did what he did. And the second understanding that we learned, we can learn from this episode of Ravan's heads being cut is that um, the head represents thoughts, and Ravan's heads represents bad thoughts, and Ravan's arms represents bad action. So we are all just like Ravan in a constant war with our bad thoughts and bad actions. And we're all trying to, like Ram, cutting off the bad thoughts and bad actions. So every time we go to a satsang, every time we hear a good lecture, every time we hear some good thoughts, we want to cut off the bad thoughts. We decide that we want to cut off the heads of of Ravan, all the bad thoughts we want to cut off. But the problem with bad thoughts is that they keep coming back. One head is gone, one thought is gone, a second bad thought comes up. A second bad thought is gone, a third bad thought comes up. So the more you keep cutting, the more they keep coming. And bad thoughts lead to bad actions. That's what the arm represents. So not just the bad thoughts keep coming back, but bad actions also keep coming back again and again and again. So how do you deal with it? You cannot deal with bad thoughts and bad actions just by cutting those thoughts and actions away. You need to deal with the root of the bad thoughts and bad actions. So the head also represents attachments, and these attachments keep coming back again and again and again. You cut off one attachment, the second attachment comes back again. You cut off a second attachment, a third attachment comes back again. So these bad thoughts and attachments, they keep coming again and again. How do you deal with them? You deal with them not by cutting the thought off, but you deal with them by going to the root. The root of the problem is sanskar. The root of the problem is the consciousness. The navel represents our sanskars. The navel represents our consciousness. The navel represents the innermost core of our being. And unless and until we work there, we work at that level, we cannot experience a transformation. We cannot eliminate these bad thoughts and bad actions completely. And that's what Ram did. On another level, Indrajit represents lust. Kumbhakarna represents ego. And Ravan represents illusion or moha. To destroy lust and ego, one can do it on their own, by their own efforts. But to destroy illusion, you need the help of a guru, of the spiritual master. And that is what Agastya represents. So to destroy Indrajit and to destroy Kumbhakarna, Agastya didn't come. The guru didn't come. But when it came time for destroying illusion, you need the help of spiritual master. And therefore Agastya comes in. And so otherwise, if without the help of the guru, illusion keeps coming back again and again and again. You destroy illusion once, it'll come back again. You destroy illusion the second time, it'll come back again. And therefore, with the help of the spiritual master, you can deal with illusion and take care of it for good. When Ravan fell, Mandodari and all the queens of Lanka, they began wailing and crying intensely. There was so much agony in Lanka. And the interesting part was, though all the queens were crying, it was almost like a competition, crying competition to show who loves Ravan more. And while all those queens were crying, Mandodari was a little sober. Though she was crying, she was a little sober. In fact, Mandodari began to shout at Ravan's dead body. She began to shout at her husband, saying that you are the cause of your death. So she said, Ram is not the cause of your death. You yourself are the cause of your death. And then she began to speak about how many times she had given warnings to Ravan, how many times she had given warnings to her husband not to do what he did. But he just didn't listen. He was too stubborn for his own good. And Mandodari, she did not even once blame Ram for what happened to her husband. In fact, she blamed her husband itself for what incurred eventually. That shows the kind of discernment that Mandodari had. Though she was crying, though she loved him, but she also knew that who is right and who is wrong. So then Ram encourages Vibhishan to cremate Ravan. He tells him, as long as the body is there, there's going to be so much of agony. It's important that we cremate Ravan immediately, all rites. Vibhishan said, I will not touch him. I will not touch his body. This person is not my brother. I disowned him long back. I just cannot relate to him. With somebody who has such sinful thoughts and somebody who is such a sinful person, I don't want even to touch his body. Ram gives a very, very amazing thought and an amazing realization that we should all hold on to. He said, hostilities end with death. A lot of people carry grudges, carry anger, carry hostilities in their heart towards others, and they carry it beyond the death of the person also. Ram says, once the body dies, all hostilities die with the body. And he explained, a dead body deserves respect. And Ram tells Vibhishan, you should not just respect him, respectfully cremate him, but cremate him with the highest respect. Because he is not just your brother, but he is a king of Lanka. And he's not just a not ordinary king, he's a king who has achieved a lot. You need to respect that achievement of Ravan. And Ram encourages Vibhishan, and Vibhishan obviously he listens to Ram and he goes and he does the needful to cremate Ravan. And in the meanwhile, Ram turns towards Mathali and he thanks Mathali for being with him on this journey in the fight. He just was there for like few minutes, literally in the last few minutes. But Ram actually thanks Mathali for being there and assisting him and helping him during the most important fight of his life. Mathali feels so touched. He realizes this is the greatest experience he had in his entire life. He has had other masters. Indra was his master. And even Indra did not offer the kind of respect that Ram offered to a driver. And Mathali was touched. He went away. In the meanwhile, Hanumanji goes and asks Ram, this is such an important, situation, and we should. Can I go and inform Sita about what has happened? Ram permits Hanumanji. Hanumanji jumps towards Ashok Vatika, and he's so excited to bring this news to Mother Sita because that day technically is the last day of the 30 days time that Sita had given Hanuman. It is explained that when Hanuman met Sita, Sita told him that I'll live for 30 days. If within 30 days Ram doesn't come and rescue me, I'll die. I'm going to commit suicide and I'll end my life. So Hanuman was so desperate from that point in time. Hanuman, from the day he met Mother Sita, that is 30 days before, it is explained that he jumped back, he burnt the whole Lanka, he jumped back from Lanka back to, the other side of the ocean, and then they all ran up towards where Ram was. All this took about 3 days. And finally they reached where Ram was, and they traveled from Kishkinda all the way south. The entire army traveled back, and it took them 12 days to travel. The journey took them 12 days. So 15 days were over. And then when they reached the shore of the ocean, Vibhishan suggested that they pray to the ocean god. So Ram spent 3 days praying to the ocean god. So which means it became 18 days by that time. And then They took 5 days to build the bridge. So it essentially became 23 days by the time the bridge was built and the army reached the other side of Lanka, other side of the ocean. And the fight took 7 days. So 23 plus 7 is 30 days. So exactly on the seventh day, which also marks the 30th day, Ravan was killed. So Hanuman, when he jumped into Ashok Vatika, he reached Sita on the last day of her deadline. Sita was so happy to see Hanuman, and Hanuman explained to Sita that Ravan is dead, and Sita was so relieved, so peaceful, and so happy that Ram has come and he's come to rescue her. So now, as Hanuman explains this to Sita, Hanuman also asks Sita, how do you deal with these Rakshasas? Because when they heard that Ravan is dead, the Rakshasas, the 700 Rakshasas were really, really scared because they knew now they are, time for torture is over. And now they are in big trouble. So Hanumanji asks Sita, tell me how I should torture them. Should I punch them? Should I tear their flesh? Should I bite them? What should I do with them? Sita tells Hanumanji, forgive them. So Hanuman is just not able to believe. He said, they have tortured you for 10 months and you're saying just forgive them. How do you forgive somebody who has tortured you for 10 months? And Sita explains to Hanumanji, she tells him a story. She tells him an amazing story. Sita tells Hanuman that when there was once a man who was in a forest, and he was somehow, he was seen, spotted by a tiger. The tiger began to chase this man, and this man began to run frantically from the tiger. And somehow, as he ran away from the tiger, he climbed up a tree to save his own life. When he was sitting on a branch of the tree, just breathing, he saw a huge bear sitting next to him. Now this man was even more scared because now below there was a tiger waiting for him, and on top there was a bear who was sitting, huge, dangerous looking bear. As this man was panicking, the bear told him, don't worry, you've taken shelter of my tree, you're my guest, I'll take care of you, just stay here. Now this man was grateful. The tiger below began to talk to the bear and told him, see, this man is a stranger, it's a human being. We have animals from the jungle. These humans are bad people. So the tiger said, just throw the human down, I'll eat him and I'll go. You mind your own business. The bear said, no, he's my guest. I won't do it. So the human being was so happy and he slept off, the bear slept off. And after some time, the human being got up. And the tiger below spoke to the man. And the tiger told him, see, I'm just hungry. You throw the bear down. I'll eat him and I'll go. Then you also go home. The man thought it's a great idea. The man pushed the bear, and as the bear was falling off from the tree, somehow he caught a branch and he came back again. And now the tiger spoke to the bear. He told him, I told you don't trust the man. The bear said, don't worry. The man was really scared. He was shivering, trembling, in fear. The bear told him, don't worry. I am not a human being. So I'm not going to throw you down. So Sita tells this story to Hanuman, and she tells him that when the bear can show such humanity, when the bear can show such compassion just because somebody had taken shelter of him, of his tree, why can't we behave with compassion? Why can't we show compassion to people who are around us? And Sita tells Hanuman that these Rakshasas, they tortured me, but they did it simply because they had a bad master. If they had a good master, they would not have done what they did. And Sita tells Hanuman that it's not their fault, and therefore I forgive them. Hanuman really saw the greatness of Sita, and all these Rakshasas, they saw the greatness of Sita. And Sita blesses Hanuman with two blessings. She blesses him the day he gave the news that Ravan is dead and Sita is safe and rescued. The day he gave the news to Sita, Sita explains to Hanuman, Sita blesses Hanuman. That day, Hanuman will be celebrated and worshipped across the world. And therefore, if all of us worship Hanumanji on Saturday, that's the day when Hanuman saved Sita, and that is Sita blessed him that on this day every week you will be worshipped. And second blessing that Sita gave Hanuman was Ram will be merciful to you always. And these are two blessings that Hanuman cherished, especially the blessing that Ram will be merciful to him. And then Ram brings Sita along. Sorry. Hanuman jumps back and tells Ram that Sita is happy to reunite, and she's so excited. Ram is sober, extremely sober in his outlook, and he tells Vibhishan, "Go and ask her to bathe, dress up, wear opulent jewelry and beautiful clothes, and come to see me." So Vibhishan is a little surprised that at the kind of tone that Ram speaks in, doesn't seem exactly excited. So Vibhishan goes to Sita with beautiful ornaments and beautiful dresses, and he tells her that please, wear these, and Ram is waiting for you. Sita says, "I don't want to wear all this. I just want to go and meet Ram." Vibhishan says, "See, Ram has given an instruction. Better you follow it." Sita, she goes and wears the dress and wears the jewelry, beautifully decorated. She sits in a palanquin. They bring the palanquin all the way to where Ram is. And when Sita's palanquin arrives, all the monkeys, the Vanaras, they're so excited to see Sita. Imagine all of them, thousands and millions of them had spent so many months searching for her. They fought an entire war searching for her. Trying to rescue her. After so much of effort, they are finally getting to see the person that they have done so much for. Imagine doing so much for someone you have never seen in your life. And the Vanaras were excited, and they began to push each other and shove each other just to get one glimpse of Sita. And Vibhishan and his four men, they are they create like a protective wall and try to push the monkeys away so that Sita gets her space. When Ram sees the Vibhishan pushing all the monkeys away, um, Ram tells them, "Don't push them." Usually, what happens with human beings is that when somebody helps us achieve success, we are grateful to them at that point, we are cooperating with them at that point. But once we achieve success, we forget them and we deal with them with indifference. But Ram is not like that. Even after achieving success, Ram is trying to be sensitive towards the Vanaras who helped him so much. And then, Vibhishan stops pushing them. The Vanaras are seeing Sita. They're so happy, excited, grateful to see her. This is the divine mother. And as Sita walks towards Ram, she's very shy and she's like excited to see Ram. And then Ram is stern, serious, very, very serious. And then Sita looks at Ram, and Ram is not even looking at her. Ram tells her, I have done what it needs to save the dignity of the Ikshvaku dynasty. And now that the war is won and Ravan is dead, you are free. You can go where you like. You choose. You've been away for 10 months, and now I want to give you the choice to choose where you want to go. Sita is shocked. Everyone there is shocked. Hanuman is bewildered. So much trouble taken to save her. And this is what Ram says in the end. Sita tells her, "What are you talking?" Sita gets angry. She shouts at Ram. She actually gives so many stern statements. She tells him, "You think I can even think of one moment without you? You think that I can think of anyone else other than you?" And she really shouts at Ram. She says, "If you don't want me, then I don't want to live in this life, in this world." And then she tells Lakshman to create a fire. And Sita, she goes around Ram three times and she jumps into the fire. Huge fire. And the women of Lanka are screaming, and the Vanaras are shocked. They're like, nobody knows what is happening. And Ram is just stern, just completely indifferent. He's not even looking into the fire, basically. So now, when Sita enters into the fire, The fire just consumes her. Everyone sees fire consuming her. And then people don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to, just dead silence. And then a few minutes later, from the fire emerges an amazingly blazing personality who is Agni, the fire god. And along with Agni comes Sita back again. And Agni hands over Sita to Ram and tells her she is pure. She is absolutely pure except her back. And then Lord Shiva and Lord Rama appear. And they explain to Ram that Ram should take her back. Ram looks at Brahma and he tells him that maybe you should speak something. And Brahma actually speaks. And Brahma, this is the first time in the Valmiki Ramayana, if you study the whole Valmiki Ramayana, nowhere Ram is called as God. But this is the first time in the entire Valmiki Ramayana you'll find Brahma addressing him as a supreme God, supreme personality of God. And Brahma actually tells Ram that, my dear Lord, this Sita is your eternal consort. And Sita cannot be touched by any human being. What to speak of, being impure? She is so powerful and so divine. And then and then there is an explanation of the Kurma Purana why this happened. What was this whole episode? Just before Ram, this is like 10 months back, when Ram was chasing behind the golden deer. When Sita wanted the golden deer, and she asked Ram to get her the golden deer. So Ram was just about to depart to go and find the golden deer, get the golden deer for her. At that time, Ram takes her into the hut, to the hermitage, and Ram he tells her, or rather, he takes her along, and Lakshman doesn't go in. Only Ram and Sita go in. At that point in time, inside the hermitage, Ram does something amazing. Ram he hands over Sita to Agni inside the hermitage. He hands over Sita to Agni, and he tells Agni to take care of her. And Agni, he creates a Maya Sita. So it is explained that there was a lady named Vedavati, and Vedavati was a very powerful personality. She always wanted to have Lord Vishnu as her husband, and she was doing great tapasya to have Vishnu as her husband. And while she was doing tapasya, Ravan saw her on top of a mountain, and Ravan jumped on from his Pushpa Viman and he went to her to grab her. And when Ravan touched Vedavati's hair, Vedavati chopped off her hair with her hands. And then she told Ravan that, now I'm impure. I cannot get married to Lord Vishnu in this life because you have touched me. And she tells him that I am going now, but I will be the cause of your death in my next life. And Vedavati actually self-immolates herself. It is explained that Vedavati reaches the abode of Agni. And that Vedavati now comes out from the fire disguised as Maya Sita. She looks exactly like Sita, but she is not Sita. And therefore, so the 10 months that Ravan kidnapped, whom did he kidnap? He didn't kidnap Sita, but he kidnapped Maya Sita. So when Sita came back from Ashok Vatika, when Hanuman called her and brought her back and all that, so Ram was not even looking at her. Why was he not looking at her? Because he had taken Ekapatni Vrata. He had taken Ekapatni Vrata. He will not look at another woman who is not his wife. And Vedavati was not his wife. And therefore, he deals with her so sternly. He tells her, you can go where you want. So he's not telling this to Sita. He's telling this to Vedavati, who is not his wife. Obviously, there is a reason why Vedavati was here. And the reason was achieved. Ravan is dead now. And Vedavati needs to go back where she needs to go. And then when Agni comes, he brings the real Sita. And as soon as Sita comes, the real Sita comes, Ram has tears in his eyes. He begins to tremble and he begins to speak such loving words to Sita. This is his original mood. This is Ram's love for Sita. And he begins to speak such loving words to Sita, and both Ram and Sita unite. And he begs forgiveness from her if she has dealt with in any way that is inappropriate. And then seeing Ram and Sita unite, everyone becomes so happy and so enthusiastic. And then Vibhishan calls Ram to stay in Lanka for a few years. He says, just stay here. This is your kingdom. You only rule this kingdom. Ram says, sorry, I need to go. Because that day, which is the 30th day on which Ravan was killed, according to Sita's timeline, also happened to be the last day of the 14 years of exile. And Ram tells Vibhishan that Bharat has told me that if I reach even one day late from the 14 years of exile, even one day late, Bharat will die. So I need to go back to Ayodhya immediately. So then Vibhishan says, at least halt for one night. So they halt that one night in Lanka, and the next day morning, Ram is ready to go. He asks Vibhishan for the Pushpak Viman. Vibhishan offers the Pushpak Viman to Ram, and Ram and Sita and Lakshman climb the Pushpak Viman. And then Vibhishan and Shugriv, they ask Ram, can we come? We want to see your Raj Abhishek, the coronation. Ram says, that is the best thing that can happen if I can take my best friends with me, my brothers with me. And Vibhishan and Sugriv climb in. And then all the other monkeys, Hanumanji and all the Vanaras, they also want to come with Ram. And Ram says, fine, come. The Pushpa Viman expands, the Pushpa Viman is not like airplanes of today, which has limited seats, and it gets overbooked and things like that. Pushpa Viman is an expansive plane. It can expand to any number. So all the Vanaras got in, and the Pushpa Viman just expanded its size. And as Pushpa Viman took off, and it began to fly towards Ayodhya, Ram was showing Sita all the important sites that she had missed in the journey. Yeah, so till that point in time, till they were together in Panchavati, Sita saw everything. She experienced everything along with Ram. But from Panchavati onwards, all the way till now, she missed all the action. She missed everything, right? See, Ram was showing Sita every single thing that was happening, that happened. He showed her the Nala Setu, the bridge that was built for the army to move towards to rescuing her. That bridge is actually the original monument of love. Today, what people celebrate, the world celebrates as the monument of love, Taj Mahal, is actually not a monument of love. But the real monument of love is Nala Setu. Ram put so much effort. A huge bridge was built across the ocean to rescue the person that he loves the most, and that really shows the effort. And that really shows how much love was there in Lord Ram's towards Mother Sita. And then finally, they reach towards Kishkinda, and in Kishkinda, Sita tells that we should invite all the Vanara women. It's not fair that the women of Kishkinda, they are not invited. And she says that the men fought the war, but the women equally made sacrifices. By not being there with their husbands, by being away from their husband for such a long period of time, for months together, they made big sacrifices. They took care of the family, took care of Kishkinda, and so Sita said they have to come. So Ram agreed, and all the Vanara women got into the flight. And it was so much enthusiasm. Everyone reunited with their families, and then the plane took off, and they landed in Bharadwaj Muni's ashram, because Ram had promised Bharadwaj Muni that before he goes back to Kishkinda, he will meet Bharadwaj Muni and then go in. So Bharadwaj Muni was very, very happy and grateful to receive Ram and his whole Vanara army. And then before they settled in, and before they went in, Ram called Hanumanji aside, and he tells Hanumanji, I want you to go to Lanka, to Ayodhya, and meet Bharat. And I want to convey this message that I have reached. Because technically, the next day, whole day was over by the time they reached Ayodhya. It was late evening. And Ram knew, if I don't reach Bharat that evening, Bharat will die. So Ram, obviously, he had to attend to Bharadwaj Muni, and because that's what respect would be. But at the same time, he wanted to save Bharat. So he sent Hanuman to Bharat to give him the news. But at the same time, he told Hanuman, when you give this news to Bharat that I am reaching, look at the eyes of Bharat. And in those eyes, if you see any kind of hesitation, any kind of doubt, any kind of sadness, you see anything that indicates that he is not happy that I'm coming, just tell me and I'll never ever go there. So Hanuman was, pretty surprised by Ram's instructions, but he knew what Ram was saying, because 14 years is a long period of time and anyone can get attached. 14 years back, Bharat was very detached and he didn't want the throne. But 14 years is a long period of time when he was actually ruling and had so much power, experienced control, experienced power. And now we don't know how Bharat would be. So Ram wanted to just test Bharat. And in your eyes, everything is revealed. You may lie in your mouth. You may lie, speak the best of lies, but your eyes don't lie. So Hanumanji reached Bharat, and when he reached Nandigram, where Bharat was, he saw that Bharat had already created a fire. He was about to jump into the fire because he felt Ram is not going to come. So Bharat felt that Ram is a detached person. Ram is a sadhu. He is in the forest and he's loving the forest life. He will never come back. That's what Bharat felt strongly by that evening. And he wanted to end his life. And at that point in time, Hanumanji reaches there. And Hanuman, he, tells the story of the Ramayana. Three times in the Ramayana, there were suicides that don't happen. When Mother Sita was going to suicide in Lanka, when the monkey army, not being able to find the whereabouts of Sita, was going to suicide on the shore of the ocean. And here, when Bharat is going to suicide in Nandigram. And all the three times, what saved the people who were going to commit suicide was Ramayana. Sita heard Ramayana from Hanumanji. Bharat is going to hear Ramayana from Hanumanji again. And the Vanar Sena, the monkey army, they began to recite Ramayana together. And as they were reciting, they came across a section of Jatayu, and Sampati came. Sampati heard the name of Jatayu, and then he came to help them. Same with in Sita and Bharat's case, just by hearing the Ramayana, they felt hope. So I always say, if anybody is losing hope in life, if anybody is highly depressed, if anybody is feeling they're just giving up, hear the Ramayana. Maybe your life will change. Maybe your decision will change. And maybe the way you look at life itself will change. Because Ramayana is a book of hope. It is a book of great realization and hope. So Hanumanji, he speaks to Bharat, and Bharat is so happy and so excited and so grateful that Ram has come back. And Bharat does not jump into the fire. And then, Hanumanji returns back to Bharadwaj Muni's ashram, conveys the message to Ram, and Ram is so happy to hear this. And then the whole army comes back ascends into the plane, and the plane is entering the blessings of Ayodhya. It is explained that as the plane is descending lower towards Ayodhya, every single street of Ayodhya, the whole area of Nandigram is beautifully decorated with lamps and with such amazing welcome signs. And as they all know that Ram is coming from with a flight, the Pushpa Viman is going to descend, and they all know that they want Ram to feel welcomed. When Ram left Ayodhya, he didn't feel that he belonged there. He didn't feel that he was wanted there, because that's the kind of situation that Kaikeyi created there. So he felt so wherever God doesn't feel welcome, he walks away. Wherever God doesn't feel that he is needed, he silently walks away. He's a gentleman, right? He's the most amazing personality. So Ram just walked away from Ayodhya when he felt that he was not welcome. But now that Bharat wanted to create a situation, a scenario where Ram feels totally welcome. So he lighted up the whole place beautifully. And as the Pushpa descended, Ram saw lights everywhere. For those of you who know what happened in India yesterday night, you will relate to this. The whole of Ayodhya was lit up yesterday, and this is the most amazing lighting in the history for hundreds of years now in Ayodhya, and it is lit up so beautifully to welcome Ram into Ayodhya. And if 2020 you can light up Ayodhya like that, you can imagine in Treta Yuga how much they would have lighted up Ayodhya. And Ayodhya was lit up so beautifully. Nandigram, which was on the outskirts of Ayodhya, was lit up so beautifully for the welcoming of Lord Ram. And as the Pushpa Viman descended and Ram got off the Pushpa Viman, he ran and embraced his brothers, Bharat and Shatrughna. Lakshmana embraced his brothers. So much love and affection between the four brothers. And they explained that after meeting the brothers, Ram, he went to his guru, Vashishta, offered respects to his guru, paid obeisances to his guru at the feet of his guru, and he kept his bow while paying obeisances at the feet of the guru. Obviously, you can't pay obeisances with the bow. He kept the bow at the feet of the guru and paid respects. But when he got up, he didn't pick up the bow and arrow. So somebody asked him, that you forgot the bow and arrow. Ram said, no, I don't need it anymore. The use of the bow and arrow is over. And Ram explained that the use of weapons is over now. Ram Rajya is going to be established on the basis of scriptures. Shastra and Shastra. There are two words in Sanskrit. Shastra means weapons. There are some people who do not understand the language of wisdom. They need to be explained the language of weapons, punishment. And for those who understand the language of wisdom, you don't need Shastra. So Ram explained that the time of weapons is over. Now, the future of Ayodhya is going to be established based on scriptures, on Shastra. And Ram just left the bow and arrow over there and walked along with the people. And then Ram did something amazing. He introduced the Vanaras to his guru, and he introduced his guru to the Vanaras. Because when the Vanaras, the monkeys, they saw such kind of reciprocation, so much respect, so much of dignity, very very dignified dealings, they were very confused because their dealings with Ram was very different. Because they had no idea what these kind of dealings meant. They were very casual with Lord Ram. But when they saw the kind of awe and reverence, saw the kind of respect that Ram was getting there, they were very confused. So Ram, just to ease their confusion and make them peaceful, he introduced the Vanaras to his guru. And he introduced his guru to the Vanaras. He told the Vanaras, here is my guru, Vashishta. By his blessings, we won the war. So he gives the full credit of the war to his guru, Vashishta. And then he introduces Vashishta to the Vanaras and he says, here are the Vanaras. By their effort, I could build, we could cross the ocean and rescue Sita. He gave the entire credit of building on the bridge and rescuing Sita to the Vanaras. So imagine, what was credit for him? What was his credit? Nothing. He took credit for nothing. He said, the mercy of the spiritual master is like the wind, is the wind that blows the sail, takes the boat across the ocean, and the effort to build the boat is done by the Vanaras. So it is explained that Lord Ram so amazingly introduced the Vanaras to his guru, and so amazingly introduced his guru to the Vanaras. And then everyone in Ayodhya was so happy, so grateful. All the citizens of Ayodhya began to meet Lord Ram. The three mothers, they met Lord Ram. And when Kaikeyi met Ram, he did not give her one iota of a second to feel guilty. Ram greeted her as if nothing happened. Imagine 14 years he has been in exile due to her, and when he greets her as if nothing happened. He didn't make her feel one single inch uncomfortable. That's the greatness of Lord Ram. And Kaikeyi was feeling so happy and so grateful to have Ram back. Kaushalya was so excited to have Ram back. And finally, her dream is going to be fulfilled. And then Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan, all four of them, they sat together in four planks, and barbers were called. And the barbers shaved off the matted locks of hair of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. And then, all four of them bathed in the Sarai river. And then they wore royal clothes. After 14 years, all four of them, Ram, Lakshman had to do it because they were in the forest. But Bharat, Shatrughan did it voluntarily because they wanted to do exactly what Ram was doing. And they wanted to experience the pain of Ram. They wanted to experience the discomfort of Ram. And all four of them now got on chariots, and the chariots moved towards Ayodhya. All the monkey heroes, Hanumanji, Sugriv, they were all made to sit on elephants, and they were made to feel like kings, literally. They were so much of reverence In fact, it is explained that Ram told Bharat to give his own palace to Sugriv to stay. So Sugriv was given the palace of Bharat to stay in, palace of the king, literally, to stay in Ayodhya. And like that, practically everyone was taken so much care of a while in Ayodhya. And then, in this way, when they entered into Ayodhya, the citizens of Ayodhya had lit up the city of Ayodhya so amazingly, and the light signified knowledge. Before, when Ram left Ayodhya, there was darkness everywhere because Kaikeyi had created Kaikeyi, Manthara specifically, had created an atmosphere of darkness. But when they were entering back into Ayodhya, there were lights everywhere. Lights signified knowledge. And the citizens of Ayodhya wanted to tell Lord Ram, now you don't have to worry. We are all having knowledge and we are all, our hearts are lighted up. You will not experience darkness anymore in the city. And the citizens of Ayodhya welcomed Lord Ram with so much love and affection. And that is exactly the way Diwali is celebrated. Diwali is a festival where Lord Ram is welcomed back into our hearts. We have all exiled Ram from our hearts. In place of Ram has taken, practically all the worst of the worst anarthas, the worst of the worst vices have taken the place of Ram. Our heart is filled with darkness, and therefore we need to welcome Ram back into our hearts. And the way to welcome Ram back into our hearts is by lighting up the lamp of knowledge. The knowledge of the Ramayana, the knowledge of the Gita, the knowledge of the Bhagavad is the knowledge that actually uplifts us and gives us access to the highest realms of the spiritual world. So this Diwali, as we are, just getting into this mood of Diwali today evening and tomorrow evening, let us all be in this consciousness. Remember this whole sequence of events that we narrated today. Please share this video with as many people as possible. Please hear this narration again and again. This video is going to be available freely for all of you all to hear again and to share with as many people as possible. Because it's not just important to celebrate Diwali, but it's also important to contemplate the mood with which we celebrate Diwali. Because most people feel Diwali is a celebration of lights and festivities, sweets and good clothes and crackers and this and that. But that's not what Diwali signifies. Diwali is the significance of how Ram is welcomed in Ayodhya in this mood and spirit of devotion and welcoming. So with this, I would like to end now. I wish all of you a very very happy Diwali and a prosperous New Year. I pray and hope that this Diwali brings in a lot of joy in your life, but more than joy, a lot of realization and a lot of higher consciousness in your life. Because what the world needs today is not celebration, but what the world needs today is contemplation. We need to contemplate on our thoughts, desires, feelings. We need to contemplate on the way we want to live our life. 2020 has taught us a lot. 2020 has woken us up quite a bit. The world has woken up to a very different situation. So let us not remain in ignorance and unconsciousness, but let us learn to uplift ourselves and reach a higher level of consciousness, which is what the world really needs today. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna, and it's a pleasure and honor to be with all of you. If you want to hear more such live classes and you want to be a part of such live events, please do leave a comment in the comments below, and I would really be happy and excited to see all your and read all your comments. And I would be happy to know if you would like to hear more such live events in the near future. Thank you very much. Happy Diwali. Hare Krishna.